구원해준 나의 천사 나의 세상 난 이상 새 고향이 널 만나러
Warning, my voice incoming. Mute if needed. Wayan sat in her room, head bowed as she stared at the phone. Her heart was heavy. Her boyfriend had declined her call mid sentence, like she didn't matter. The screen dimmed, but the silence around her only grew louder. Moments later, her phone lit up again. She answered quickly. His voice came cold through the speaker. Wayan, what you did was wrong. You can't speak to my mom like that. She is really upset. Her fingers curled into the blanket. I didn't say anything wrong, Dorian, she replied quietly. She told me I should quit my job after we get married. I have worked for this career for years. Would you leave your job after marriage? She asked. His tone sharpened. Don't be ridiculous. I am the breadwinner of this family. Do you expect me to quit? Wayan's throat tightened. And I support my family too. I send money to my dad every month. She reminded him, trying to stay composed. I'll send money to your dad. You don't have to worry, he said firmly. Her chest sank. That wasn't the point. It was never just about money. I'll talk to you later, she whispered and ended the call before tears escaped. She stared at the wall, thoughts spiraling. He'll send the money? For how long? And what if he stops? And what would she do then? What would her father do? Her hands trembled as the weight of uncertainty settled in her chest. It was all too much. That wasn't how love was supposed to feel. No comfort, no understanding, just pressure, demands, and control. The future she once imagined now looked like a prison. Her heart screamed for air, for freedom, for something real. Ryan stepped out of her room quietly, slipping into her jacket without thinking. She needed to forget, even if it meant drinking alone until morning. This wasn't her usual way of coping, but tonight the weight inside her needed to disappear. If she ever needed comfort, she would run to Jimin. He always knew how to calm her storms, but now he was gone, not a part of her world anymore. He had walked away, and she had no choice. She was left in a relationship her father had chosen for her, a man who was never her safe place. He spoke sweetly at times, only to follow it with words that stung worse than silence. That was his pattern. He never hit her, no bruises, but the mental pressure was enough. He manipulated with calm smiles. He wanted her to understand his life but never stepped into hers. She was always adjusting. He never tried to meet her halfway. He didn't know what she truly liked. On her birthday, he gave her a snake shaped pendant. She feared snakes. She told him before, but he didn't remember. Or maybe he didn't care. She felt numb holding the gift that night. It was a clear sign. There was no understanding, not from him, not from his family. Whenever she visited their home, she left feeling smaller. Something always felt off, like she didn't belong there at all. And now she felt anger toward Jimin too. If only he had stayed, if only he had held on, maybe she wouldn't have ended up like this. Why did he leave her? What reason could possibly make him walk away from love? If Jimin ever come back, she promised herself she wouldn't even look at him. No begging, no breakdown. He had his chance. He chose to disappear, and now she would live without him, even if her heart was quietly breaking. When YN reached the bar, she quietly slipped into a corner booth. The place was soft with music and low lighting, just loud enough to blur her thoughts. She ordered the drink, then another. Her fingers wrapped the glass like it was an anchor. Tears escaped before she realized it. Her eyeliner smudged in the trails. She wiped away quickly. She kept her face low, hiding the hurt from strangers around her. But as each drink passed, the tears kept slipping, slower, unstoppable, silent. She drank like the world didn't exist. And maybe she didn't want to. Everything felt far away, like she was underwater. All she wanted was a simple life, time with her father, and someone who truly, deeply loved her. Jimin did. He made her feel safe, seen. His kind of love stayed in her memory like sunlight on cold days. The comparison made the present worse. The way her current boyfriend treated her like sharp glass pressed against fading warmth. As she reached for another glass, her eyes lifted without meaning to. That's when she saw him, Jimin, sitting far across the bar, eyes locked on her, frozen like he had seen a ghost. But she blinked. He was still there. Her heart skipped. For a moment she wondered if it was a dream or just a drunken blur. But the longer she stared, the clearer he became. He was really there, right in front of her, in the same room, breathing the same air. Everything she had been thinking dissolved into quiet. Her body ached to run to him, to crash into his arms, but her legs stayed still. Her throat tightened. Her fingers trembled as she set her glass down and clutched her bag. Before her heart could betray her, Wine stood up. Her heels clicked softly on the wooden floor. She walked toward the exit without looking back, her breath shaky, her eyes stinging. She didn't know if he would follow. She just knew she had to leave. Wyan, Jimin called out, rushing behind her. She heard his voice. Every part of her did, but she didn't stop. She only walked faster, needed to escape the moment before it broke her wide open. Her foot caught on the uneven pavement and she nearly stumbled forward. But before she could fall, Jimin's arm caught her. He held her tightly, steadying her. She felt the warmth of like my memory, but she pulled back. Don't touch me, she said, her voice low but firm as she yanked herself from his grip. His hands dropped instantly. Jimin stepped back, looking at her with wide hurt eyes, like he hadn't expected her to be this cold. She turned away, wanting to disappear again, but Jimin moved quickly, stepping in front of her. Wayan, he said, softer this time. She closed her eyes tight, not wanting to hear him, not wanting to remember how he once said her name. Let me go, she whispered, eyes still shut. Her voice cracked just slightly. Wayan, please, he said, barely above a breath. Slowly, she opened her eyes. Let me go, she repeated, firmer this time. His chest rose sharply before he stepped aside. Without another word, she walked past him, her pace quick. She didn't look back. Her heels echoed against the wet sidewalk. Her heart beat louder than the street noise. But Jimin didn't stay behind. He followed her steps quiet, a few paces back. The street was nearly empty, the city asleep. She walked straight, trying to hold herself. Behind her, Jimin walked silently, not close enough to stop her, but close enough to say without words that he wasn't ready to let her go. A group of boys on the corner spotted Wayan and whistled in her direction, trying to catch her attention. She ignored him, but before they could come closer, Jimin stepped in beside her, shielding her from their gaze with a protective stance. Wayan turned to him sharply, eyes wide with fury. What are you doing now? Where were you all these years, and now you're protecting me from who exactly? Her voice trembled. Did you care what happened to me? Oh, please. Go away, she yelled, her words venom-laced and shaky. Jimin stood frozen, absorbing every word. He had prepared himself for this moment. He thought he could handle it, but now it burned more than he expected. I'm sorry, Wayan, Jimin said, taking a small step closer. She looked at him with cold, wet eyes. Your sorry doesn't work, she snapped. Go on with your life. I'll live mine. I have a boyfriend now, so don't follow me anymore. Jimin's feet stopped. Her words hit like a wall. Wayan, he called again. She wiped her tears, pretending she didn't hear him, then walked off into the quiet street. But he followed. He couldn't let her go, not like this. Then why are you here alone at this hour? He asked, voice rough but calm. She let out a dry, sarcastic laugh. Are you caring about me now? She strode back, not turning around. I'm sorry, please just listen, he begged. But she didn't. Her footsteps didn't slow. I'm really sorry, he said again, louder. His voice cracked. He didn't stop. He knew he would keep chasing her. Even if it took forever, he would earn. She was his only person that mattered.